Last discussion we started with session start. Your link, please. Okay. Yeah. So far we have done with the core module where we learned how to create classes and how to do dependency injections. That basic stuff we learned. And in JDBC module, we understand the importance of connection pool, and instead of having a traditional JDBC code with a large number of lines, we understand the use of JDBC template and named parameter JDBC templates as well. Now, one step, if we move towards to ORM to avoid JDBC stuff and to shift to ORM here with the Spring. Basically, in Spring JDBC, when we go, we saw and we understand it will reduce a lot of compile time exceptions and a lot of time also during implementation of Spring JDBC, and connection leakage issues it will avoid, and very less code we write, right? And when we move towards to ORM, what are all benefits that we can see, particularly for the repository layer, where we do use this JDBC or Hibernate as part of repository. When we implement end-to-end MVC application, from form when you submit the data, we receive data in controller. From controller to we send to service. Services will call repositories. Repositories will deal with your database. All the CRUD operations we handle here. So to execute CRUD operations, if I start using ORM like Hibernate, what advantages it will provide is you need not to bother about SQL queries. In JDBC, we used to write insert, update, delete, select queries. That all SQL queries has been avoided here. No SQL query. And CRUD operations will be handled by simple POSO classes only. We need to have a simple Java bean class, and we need to put our data into that Java bean class by assuming that that Java bean itself as a table. ORM will provide that advantage to us. Just we need to put our data into POSOs, and when you use session or object and when you call save, automatically your data will be stored into table. So ORM will help you to save your POSO into tables, saving or update or delete or whatever it is. All CRUD operations you can handle via simple POSO classes. And JDBC is not providing any auto primary key generators. Primary key generators are very important for any application. Either a random primary key or a sequence primary key, because tables will not allow, or in general, while we are doing normalization, every table should have a primary key field. That is a mandatory thing for Hibernate. In database language, while we are doing normalizations, right? Once we identify the requirements, we normalize our tables. First normal form, second normal form, third normal form. So we normalize our tables and we will For every table, we will fix one primary key. While using JDBC concept, you should take care of the primary key generators. Whatever code you write, you need to do it. But in Hibernate, you need not to bother about primary key data or primary key field. Primary keys will automatically generate it because primary key field will not enter by any end user. End user will not enter any data for primary key. From application side, we should handle it. So that primary key generator support we have and auto DDL support. So in case if your database is not having tables for your application, automatically tables also will be generated. So that auto DDL support we have and the connection pools you need not to bother in for database operations we identified and we understand that the need of connection pools will improve performance. Connection pools will give access at a time to multiple users parallelly. They can execute CRUD operations and it can make them wait into waiting period in case if connections are not available. So by default connection pool also integrated in Hibernate and all compile time exceptions will be avoided. Catchy support given. In case if you want to use native SQL, lot of joins are there, a big SQL query is there. I can't do it in ORM. I want native SQL code only. Yes, it will allow that as well. And validations also it can do while doing inserts in case if you want to validate whether it is email and email format. If user enters phone number, is it in a phone number format or not? Validation support also has been given. And while we're using graph databases, it will support. While using NoSQL databases, it will support not only uh, RDBMS, it can support object graph databases and NoSQL databases as well. Okay, so for now I'll show you simple Hibernate example, and you can understand, you know, how it is different from your JDBC. Let's assume you have a requirement like you have employee registration form, course registration form, or student registration form. For these three forms, I have three controllers here in the controller layer, and from controller to I'm passing my data to service layer. From service to I'm passing my data to DAO. In DAO, I have consider for each registration form. For each form, I have one class here, one class for employee, one class for course registration, and one class for student registration. I want to do CRUD operations here. And what data coming from there? Some raw data we will get. For employee fields maybe employee ID, employee name, employee address, employee salary kind of stuff. For course details maybe course name, course fee, course duration. For student maybe student name, address, mobile number, email ID. Such stuff I am getting here into my CRUD DAOs. From here, how to deal with database. If it is a ORM. In JDBC, you know how to deal it. You can simply open a connection, or by using a connection pool, you can get a connection and you can do CRUD operations. But if it is a Hibernate, how you will do? What is your approach? So here I am getting raw data. For any CRUD operation, I am getting raw data like name, email, address, that stuff I am getting here. Name, email, address, phone number, something or raw data getting here until the CRUD. From here, how to deal with the database if it is a Hibernate. First thing, your raw data you need to put it into Poser class. Okay, first thing you need to put the first step. Data will come from end user or from front end. You have to put that into Poser class. The raw data you need to put it into Poser class. That's it. Will it save automatically if I put it into Poser class? No, not exactly. Once you put it into Poser class, you have to use Hibernate API session object. Use session class methods. Predefined methods. You need not to do anything. Predefined methods for CRUD operations. What are the methods you have in this class? For save operation, once you put your data into poser class, right? For save operation, or you may say insert operation. For insert, we have a method in session class. Session class is having a method called save. In that save method, you need to pass your poser class. Whichever poser class you have, right? That poser class object you need to put here for insert. That is for insert. And if it is a update, in Hibernate we have update method. If you want to do update session.update method. First thing you need to put your raw data into poser. Then you need to pass that poser into the save method or update method. For delete method. For delete, we have session.delete. And what about select operation? One record select. For one select, one record or one row select. For one row select, they have given get method or load method session.get. Just you need to pass ID here, primary key, the primary key field. You need to give primary key as an input and from which table it need to bring. So instead of table, for table alternative is poser class. So the poser class argument we will pass here so that it will bring data to you. Either get method or alternative we have load method also. In Hibernate we have get and load for one row select operation. For one row select operation we have get and load method as well. Okay. And for multiple record selection for many rows. For many rows, okay, we have session dot mm, criteria approach we have and create query approach we have. Create query, we can give SQL like SQL. Hibernate query language we can use. Instead of writing queries on table, we will write it on poser classes, similar to SQL, but it is more easier way. We use create query approach or session dot create criteria approach. Create criteria. And there are many other operations also we will see them. Okay, so this many types of methods they have given. So all you need to do is you need a session object like your connection object. One time you need to get your session object. If you learn how to get session and see that you can call save or update delete methods and you can pass your poser object into it. That's it. If it is a save, it will take care internally. Save will generate. So if you give poser, how Hibernate will save it into database? Here Hibernate job will start internally. Internally generator. There is a Hibernate generator, query generator. Hibernate query generator. You need not to bother about it. It's a framework class. Okay, Hibernate query generator. What it will do? It will convert this requirement into insert query. Internally, it will generate it for you. Insert query. It do for you. SQL insert query only. Pure SQL query insert query it will generate. That too it will suitable for your database. It will suits to database or match with your database, because every database will have a different style. So how it will get to know that which database you are using? We will give that input as a configuration. So by that configuration, it will understand which query it need to generate. Insert query, update query, delete query. All the queries it will generate. Not only insert, update, delete, select, select all. Any aggregations like max or min, any query, anything if you try to do, Hibernate query generator internally generates for you. So what is the benefit if it is doing internally? You need not to worry about it. SQLs are, they are pure database language. As a Java developer, you need not to look after SQL queries. You can deal with the objects only. And this framework will do that internal conversion for you when you pass your proposal. So let me give you Hibernate architecture, basically how it will work, you can see. In Hibernate, the main important class is configuration. The main important class is configuration. What this configuration will do, this is like a container. Configuration class is like a container, like you have in Spring IOC container. This is Hibernate container. Hibernate container. This is your Hibernate container. Hibernate container class, configuration class. What it will do, this Hibernate configuration container class will read your configurations. You need to load all your configurations via this. So we will having one configuration file, Hibernate .cfg.xml. In this configuration file, we will pass connection properties. As it is dealing with database, it need connection properties. This is the one which is important first. And you need to mention Hibernate properties. There are some Hibernate configurations we have. So we need to configure that Hibernate properties, the second important thing. And the most important thing is mapping classes. In three sections, if I divide, this first one is you are familiar, connection properties, driver name, URL, username, password. You need to pass. And these two will help Hibernate to understand which database you are using. Basically, Hibernate properties. It will allow you to configure it, customize your Hibernate configurations. From this Hibernate properties, you can do that. What are they available there? One is the important one is dialect. You need to configure. So via dialect, what we will mention is which database we are using. So the DB property, I mean, which database, which DB we are using, that database name we will pass there. And auto DDL support, as I said, right? We have auto DDL. In case if you want to generate tables automatically, we need to configure that auto DDL true. There are many options. We need to use that options here. We have to enter that options here, auto DDL options. Importantly, these two. There are many properties. And finally, mapping classes. So here, which means your POSO class, which is mapping to table, right? Each table will have a POSO class from Hibernate side. So in our requirement, we understand for the student registration, right? For the student registration and course registration, employee registration, I have three tables: employee table, course table, student table. So as I have three tables there, I need how many POSO classes? Three POSO classes. The three POSO classes I need to create. For each table, one POSO. For each table, one POSO class I need to create. That classes configuration also we need to do here. So which means when you identify tables first, right, in your requirements gathering itself, we will identify all the tables before even you start with your Java development, before even you create your database code itself, right? You will be having tables in database. You will first create tables there. So here you have student table. Before starting my Java code itself, I have created consider employee table and courses table. I have all the required tables in the database. Along with requirements gathering, I identified them and I created it. Now the next immediate job is you need to create poser classes. Maybe you can create one package like com dot rbu dot your application name if it is employee management system dot model. There you start creating your model classes. First thing you can start with it. You create your project and inside models package, okay, put your poser classes. Student poser class student with all setters and getters, class employee with all your setters and getters, and class course. You create all your poser classes. What these poser classes will contain? Whatever you have in your tables, these poser classes also will have the same stuff. Table equivalent poser classes you will be creating here. Your table equivalent poser classes. For suppose student class is having four fields here: ID, name, email, address columns. Here also you will be putting ID, name, email, address as a variables. Here we call them columns. Here we call them properties. Same stuff. If course is having course ID, course name, course ad, yeah, fee, we'll put the same variables here in the Java. ID, name, fee, all that stuff. Employee, same. If I have employee ID, employee name, salary, I'll put that ID, name, salary here as a Java variables. So for each table equivalent model class, we should be creating. That is the first step you need to do. In Hibernate, they have given annotations in Hibernate API. As soon as you want to create disposer classes, right, you need to add Hibernate jar files. Add Hibernate jars to your application. Add Hibernate jars. Then in this Hibernate jars, there are some annotations given. In Hibernate jars. In old approach, we used to use XML file also. Now you can go with annotations also. What that annotations will do? Hibernate given annotations will help you to map. Hibernate annotations we used here. Mainly entity annotation. Mainly entity and the table annotations will help you to map your poser to bean classes. Poser to bean classes you will be mapping via entity and table annotations. So entity and table annotations will be helping you, not you, actually your framework Hibernate while doing CRUD operations, right? It will understand where and how need to be inserted via these annotations. These annotations we put on top of every class. On top of every class, right? We put them on student class, employee class, courses class. They will help your application DO class while doing save, update, delete operations. They will understand via this entity and table annotation in which table I need to go and insert. Okay, so this poser classes also we will configure here, mapping classes. What they offer while doing CRUD operations, they need to go and store in a database table. So which poser classes you have to store it into table, that poser classes you will be configuring here. First to connection properties and Hibernate properties and your mapping classes. Then what you need to do, this configuration file you will be loading into Hibernate container. This configuration file you will be loading into Hibernate container, and in this Hibernate container there is a method called build session factory. Build a session factory. Build session factory method is there. As soon as you call it, it will read all the configurations. Here your container will start configuration container. It will read all the properties and it will create one factory object. Session factory object. So as I said, right, this is like a session pool. Here we have sessions. It is a session pool. In this session factory, we will be having all the sessions. How many sessions? It depends on the connection pool count you have given here. If you give connection pool count 10 connections, here it will create 10 sessions in your session factory. Now what you need to do, now if you want to integrate it with your Spring application or in general in DAO, what you need to do, if it is your DAO class, my DAO getting raw data from front end. So here is my DAO. So when you want to do CRUD operations, you need session object. So inside DAO, we will be using session factory. We will be putting session factory into DAO in the instance level. And when we have save method or insert method or create method, we will be getting raw data, name, email, address here. What you need to do, you need to put that name, email, address into your poser class. You need to create your poser class object. Maybe if it is a student s equal to new student. Maybe with the properties or constructors, you need to pass your name, email, address here into this being. And from session factory, you need to get a session. Session factory will have sessions, multiple sessions. So from this session factory, you need to get one session here. You need to open one session dot save. You need to pass your poser class reference key. That's it. Your CRUD operations are done. Right away, it will take your data, poser class data, whatever data you have here. This session method will read internally, as I said, right? It will generate SQL query and executes. It will generate your SQL query and it will execute on your database. Straight away, it will take your data to database. Okay. So I'll show you one simple example now without the Spring. Okay. Simple Hibernate examples. Let's try to understand it. Okay. I'll give you a few examples so that you will get familiar with Hibernate. I'm just opening it. This is basically Hibernate session, not particular or related to your Spring, but mostly you people came from basic core and advanced background. You might not have, I believe, Hibernate knowledge. That's why I'm just trying to give you a very high level idea. Just a minute. And for yourself, if you want to practice, right, you can go here, Hibernate ORM. I'm sharing this link. Okay, so there you have Hibernate examples. Download Hibernate jar files here and download Hibernate examples here. So you will be getting all the examples, okay, and jar files as well. So you can simply load them into your local and you can practice them. Okay, so now I'll show you a simple application, only one example. Okay, so that helps you to understand Hibernate. Simple Java project, Hibernate with the XML approach. I'll show you first. Finish it. Okay, So as soon as you create project, add all the jar files. Go to build path, configure build path, add external jar files, open. Oh, just a minute. Just now I downloaded. Okay, they are here. Hibernate annotations jars, Hibernate example jars. Extract all and examples also extract it. Extract all. Okay, if you guys want, I'll share Hibernate material also. If you are interested, just practice them. So add external jars, downloads. Okay, Hibernate, Hibernate. Today, okay, at the bottom. So Hibernate jars. Here I have all the jars. Okay, most of the jar files are available, including Oracle connector and the MySQL connector is not there. You can add MySQL connector if you want. Okay, so add that library and first thing, let me include example CRUD operation. First thing, for your table you need to create equivalent bean class. Okay, let's say you have a student table, you need to create a student bean class with all setters and getters. Consider you have a student table. So for that student table, I created a beans package. Maybe you can rename it to model. In real time, we name it with form dot or view dot application name dot model. We call it models. So inside model package, you will see all the ORM beans. So this is the student table, student bean, which is mapping to student table. I'm not using any annotations here in the first example. I have ID, name, email address, and for this bean, we will be having a table in database. If table is not available, Hibernate can create it for you. Yes. Let me log into database also. Okay. Meanwhile, let's copy mapping file as well. I'm just copying this resources package and putting here. So once you create your bean class, ID, name, email address with all getters and setters, create one mapping file, XML file, simple XML file. Here this is Hibernate DTD, like your Spring Boot DTD in Hibernate also we have Hibernate DTD. You need to put that here. And in Hibernate, this is how we map our bean to table. Basically, student class is part of this package form.rbu.ems.model. So let me rename it. Okay. Now this bean is mapping to student 007 James Bond. Student 007 table I have here. If you have, it's okay. If not, let's create the table. Okay. Describe the student 007. Is it available? Object to be described could not be found. Okay. Which means table is not there. Maybe you can create now. Create a table. Student 007 ID number, and it must be primary. Without primary key, tables are not allowed in Hibernate. Varchar true of 500, email varchar 500. What else we have? ID name, email, and address. Varchar true of 500. So let's create this table. Table is created. Now fine. So I'm mapping my student table to student bean to student table. And ID means primary key field. ID is a tag and this ID is your column name. Don't confuse. This ID is a fixed tag for all primary key fields. So in my table, the primary key field name itself is ID, right? So that ID I'm giving. And the name, email, address. Same your bean class properties and table proper column names are same. If you observe here, this ID, name, email, address. Same naming conventions I'm using in my bean as well. ID, name, email, address. So that's why I can straight away map this to my table. In case if your table column names are different, here you have one column attribute. There you can mention your table column names. Let's say your table is having student ID, or otherwise let me put it. When you have same names, need not to bother. But if you have different naming conventions, let's drop it. In general, table names and just uh, table property, student ID, student name, student email, student address. Consider these are the column names. So now your column names are different, and in your bean properties are different. So then you need to mention that property column names here. Student ID, student name, student email, student address. Got that. Mapping is done. Bean to table. My bean ID need to be stored here. My bean class name should be name property should store in this name column. Email in the email column. Address in the address column. Thus, mapping is done. And I created one configuration file. As I said, right? Mapping is required. Bean to table. Then configuration is important now. So under this configuration, first few properties are for your connection only. If you see driver name, URL, username, password. That's it. And after that, I have few Hibernate properties. Dialect, auto radial, and show SQL. The dialect need is Hibernate is doing automatic query generation, right? When you pass your data, Hibernate is generating query for you. You are just giving the data, and yeah. So when you pass the data, it will generate SQL query and it will execute it. So the dialect will generate this particular database understandable query. How it is generating query with and how your database will understand. As I'm mentioning Archil dialect here, Archil understandable query only it will generate. If I mention MySQL query it will generate. If I mention DB2 query. If I mention SQL Server query. So for every database we have dialect option here. And HBM to DDL auto, what it will do in case if this table is not at all there in your database, student table with ID, name, email address, if it is not there, automatically this option will allow you to create table. We have options here like create, update, validate, create hyphen drop. This many options we have here. We generally will not use all these options. We will use validate. In real time, we will create tables first and we will come to this mapping here. So you mostly put validate, and you should be very careful with this auto video. In case if you put it create or create hyphen drop, and as it is if it running in your production database or UAT database, what it will do, it will delete all the tables and it will recreate them. Generally, that is not recommended. Mostly we will be working on existing applications, existing databases. There we will have huge data. You should not take the risk. Just to put validate and try to do these mappings yourself. Instead, you asking to create tables, put your table name and table columns here, bus. It will validate whether the table is there or columns are there or not. And show SQL will show you internally generated queries. When it generates a query, right, it will show you that. And this is my mapping file, whichever I have done so far, the mapping from my bean to table. That mapping file here is given here. Okay, what else I need to do? I have a bean class. So now this bean class can be utilized in your DO classes. Let me create a DO class or a simple test class. Consider like DO test. Okay, directly we'll create a main method there to show you how it will work. Put main method. First, create this stuff. Start your IOC container, build a session factory, and then we can do crowd operation. So let me start it. Configuration container. cfg.configure. Load your orchid.cfg.xml file, configuration file. Then build your session factory. Session factory also build it. So this is one time effort. Okay, remember you need to start here. Start Hibernate container. Build a session factory. Now you can do CRUD operations. Ready for CRUD. You can do any CRUD operations now. Okay, I want to do save. How to do? Just whatever data, raw data you will get, put your data into B coming from end user. Whatever data you are getting from the end user, put it here. Create a student bean. student dot set. For now, primary key generator is not added, right? So let's put some data. Student dot name, student dot email, student dot address. Don't we have address column? Set address. Right? So put your data, raw data. Usually this data we will get from front end. Read it and put it in your bin. Yes. Hereafter, you need a session object. Session factory dot open session. This step will provide you one session object. It will provide one session. What I can do with this session? You can do any CRUD operation. Session dot save. You can pass your student object. That's it. It will insert your data. It will insert your data. So just finally you need to commit this transaction. If it is auto commit set true, you need not even do this. You can transaction dot. Here begin transaction. Here commit transaction. First. Now whatever insert you did here, that insert query generated and data inserted into your DB. Hereafter, carefully we need to do what? We need to close our sessions, like your connections. Otherwise, sessions leakages you will get. Bus, yeah, success. Let's run and see. Good. Missing column student underscore address. Address. Do we have one S is missing? Let me drop and recreate. See, validate is carefully checking this column name. There one S is missed, so it is saying column is missed. Don't worry, check your table and correct it and run it. So internally generated SQL query. See how beautiful a query generated for you. Insert into table fields and values. Okay, so your data got inserted. Yeah, నేను షేర్ చేస్తాను. యా 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 అయిపోయింది ఈ పూట వీడియో అప్లోడ్ చేస్తాను చూడు రేపటి నుంచి. ఓకే, so it is almost success. So you can go to database and check it. Select table from check your data. There you go. Record insert. See, this stuff is one-time stuff. Whatever configurations that we have done. Is that difficult doing this configuration means? I don't think so. Anybody can do it. Creating simple poser class, not a difficult task. Creating mapping file, not a difficult task. And putting one-time configurations here also not a difficult thing. And using this save method, not at all difficult. Just create poser, put your data, pass it into here. That's it. Any complex object, let's say you have here 100 fields. in this B, and that 100 wheels inserting into 100 columns of your table. It will insert successfully. It will not miss even one single thing. A powerful tool, okay, for doing CRUD operations. Okay, so yeah, in Spring, what we will see on top of it, like your JDBC template, right? They given Hibernate templates to avoid these many lines. We are opening session, beginning transaction, save, commit, close. To reduce this stuff to single line, they given template. Otherwise, Spring will be using internally a Hibernate code only. They doesn't have any separate OR. And Spring is not against to Hibernate. Hibernate itself came first in the market. Okay, so I think he's Gavin King or Rod Johnson. I used to confuse. Gavin King, right? You guys know who designed it? Hmm. So then Gavin King, he's the Gavin King in 2001. Before Hibernate, okay, Hibernate Warren. Before this Hibernate Warren, the alternate for this Hibernate is EJB entity beans. EJB entity beans. Entity beans are having similar features, but the problem is to run this entity beans we need WebLogic. Yeah, application server like WebLogic or JBoss. So they put before, right? They put that dependency. This server people provided implementations to them. So there will be charges you need to pay and you need to use them. And application also becoming very difficult architecture wise. So he is from EJB team. Then he moved out and made it simple, a container independent. No WebLogic, no JBoss, nothing. He made it with a simple class, line number 12. He destroyed everything and he created a simple configuration class to handle the same ORM features. A lot of features he added in it. Basically, if you see as a layman, if you observe the difference between JDBC and this one, he made it things simple. All one-time configuration you need to do, and your CRUD operations will become easy. Save or update or delete or select with a lot of additional features. Creating tables automatically, generating primary keys automatically, no exceptions. See, there is no try catch, no exceptions arrived here. Cache features. Once you select from database, if you put it into the cache, it will not ask you to select again and from database. From cache only it can return. Lot of performance improvements you can do here. Rapid application development. In very good speed you can implement all of them. In case if you want to do update it now, simple. In place of this save, now I want to update address of the student. So from HYD to US I'll put, instead of save method, I'll be using here update bus. See if I run what it will do. Success. Internally generated update query. So my data has been updated. So address got changed from Hyderabad to USA. In case if you want to delete a record, we'll see that delete later. Okay. So if you put simple delete, it will delete it. In case if you want to select a record, for selection even this transactions also not required. You need to do all. You need to do is session dot get what you want student data and what is the primary key one. That's it. It will give you straight away data. No result set, nothing, no mapper. So it will give you student object. This is student dot get name. In case if you want to print all the stuff, you can print. That's it. Selections are simple. I got the data. Instead of get, they have given load method also. But you have go through the book which I will share. You can see the differences. Load also giving data. And in case if you want to select many records, create query methods, native query methods, lot of stuff available in Hibernate. Okay. So what we will do tomorrow on top of this Hibernate, we will see how to use a Spring. With the Spring, we need to see now simple Hibernate example only we did, right? We will see how to integrate this with the Spring and how Spring made it very simple. Okay, that we will see in tomorrow's session. So do you guys understand at least the basic idea of Hibernate?